Turns out that our ghrelin peaks 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you get hungry at 12 o'clock. It's lunchtime, you get hungry. So it's a learned response. The question is, what happens if you don't eat? Does hunger keep going up and up and up? It doesn't. In fact, the ghrelin actually peaks and then it just falls. If you don't eat, it will actually just fall down, and it will fall down within a couple of hours right to baseline, which means that your level of hunger at 12:30, 1 o'clock, you're hungry. No question about it. If you don't eat by 3, 4 o'clock, that hunger level is actually the same whether you ate or you didn't eat. What happened? Well, your body simply took the calories it needed from your body fat. You took that meal from your body fat and your hunger went down. So that's really interesting. So if you know that it's a wave, right? You just have to let the sort of wave pass over. I often tell people, you will get hungry, okay? Don't pretend that you're not, because you will. What you got to do is prepare for it and say, okay, well, if you get hungry, then there's several things. One, stay busy. Keep doing stuff. Don't just think about how hungry you are. So we all have had this where we're, working on some kind of, doing work at work, or if you're doing some kind of, home renovation or something. I did this all the time where I'm like painting, the house or something like that, right? And I'll just power right through because I just want to get it done. And I'm not hungry at all because I'm so busy. I'm so focused on doing the work that I just forgot about it, right? You see this all the time, people who go to the casino and people who play video games, they just get so engrossed. So that's one strategy. The other strategy is to get something like green tea or coffee that you can drink. By the time you finish, a big cup of green tea, the hunger will have passed, but you know that it's going to pass. And that's the point. It's not going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's how you do it. What's even more interesting, actually, is if you look at multiple day studies where they fast people for 3, 4, 5 days, the ghrelin peaks. And then after about 2 days, it starts going down. So by, day 2, day 3, as you get to day 4, day 5, the hunger almost completely disappears. Wow. It's actually fascinating if you've never done it. I've done a few of these 4 or 5 day fasts. And it's interesting because there's actually no physical sense of hunger. There's a whole lot of, hey, that slice of pizza looks really good. I really want to eat it. But there's no actual physical hunger. So if I hadn't seen it, which is hard now, of course, with all the advertising and all this sort of stuff, I would have actually, gone and right by and done it. But the point is that the hunger is something that you have to learn how to deal with. It's not impossible because, again, one of the big objections to people with fasting is that nobody can do it. Like, it'll work. Sure, if you don't eat, you'll lose weight, but nobody will do it. Well, that literally millions of people throughout history have done this. Look at Ramadan, you look at Yom Kippur, you look at Lent. Like, when people say, okay, we're going to fast together because our strength is in our togetherness, right? It's Good Friday. We're not going to eat for this amount of time. Well, that's how people did it, right? Yeah. They supported each other. So that's how you do it, right? You get yourself a supportive community. You figure out something that you really love to do that keeps you active during that time. And that's how you get through it, right? And while you do that, of course, your body uses up the body fats. You're going to lose weight. It's going to use up the blood sugar, which is going to keep you from becoming diabetic. And its insulin is going to fall, which is going to reduce your risk of cancer in the long term, as well as those other conditions, obesity and type 2 diabetes, which put you at such high risk of cancer in the first place. So you're all kinds of good stuff for your body, and it's completely free. It's because if you think about the number of diseases that you can make better, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, diabetes, which is the leading cause of blindness, of kidney disease, of amputations, the secret to managing all of these things is not more medicine and surgery. It's less. It's actually within our grasp because fasting is free to every single person on earth. You can do it literally right now and start right now on the path to getting better. It's just a matter of having that knowledge to do it. The people tell you, oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's like, that's not true. We all used to do it, right? If you think about, a community of on Yom Kippur, like millions of Jews around the world are doing it, or Ramadan, millions of Muslims are doing it, or millions of Catholics are fasting during Good Friday. Like my priest used to tell me all the time during Lent, fasting, like that's all he talked about practically. So it's such an incredible tool that we've just sort of forgotten about, and yet has more power than almost anything else to prevent all of these diseases. And we don't have to charge anybody anything. We're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're just trying to tell you, yes, you can do it, because if you have too much weight and it's putting you at risk of this cancer, then let your body burn off that sugar, let your body burn off that fat. I mean, the point about being healthier is one of these things that people think it's super unhealthy for you. It's actually one of the healthiest things you can do, as long as you're, again, not underweight and you're doing it safely, right? You're not on a bunch of medications that need adjustment and that kind of thing. But there's this whole recent scientific sort of revolution into this process called autophagy, which has been, very, very topical. People have been going crazy on it because in 2016, one of the Nobel Prizes in medicine was awarded to one of the early researchers. And what it showed is that when you fast, and you turn down these nutrient sensors, then your body actually starts to activate a process called autophagy. And autophagy is where your body breaks down these sort of subcellular organelles and just gets rid of them, right? It breaks it down and recycles them. And everybody thinks, well, if you're breaking down stuff, that's bad for you, right? You're breaking down protein, it's bad for you. It's good for you, because the first thing you need to do whenever you want to renovate, for example, say you want to renovate your bathroom, the first thing you got to do is throw out everything in there, right? So your body works the same way. The first thing you have to do is get rid of the old junky old protein. You got proteins, the connective tissue, all of that goes. And it's not like the body knows what it needs and doesn't need. What happens is that everything starts to go, and then the stuff you need, like if you're still exercising, your body's like, hey, I still need those muscles, I'm going to rebuild that. So that's the key, that one of the things that activates during fasting is actually growth hormone. So if you fast for 24 hours, your growth hormone level is like 4 times what it is when you're eating. Yeah. And it sounds very strange. Why would growth hormone goes up? Well, it's because of this whole process where you want to break down stuff. As soon as you start to eat it, you want to rebuild all of it. So the Nobel Prize in Medicine, which is Dr. Osuni, said this is the body's intracellular recycling system. So it's not let's flush out all our old stuff. It's not flush it out and rebuild into new stuff. But if you think about it, that's incredibly powerful, because that's the whole process of rejuvenation, right? Get rid of the old stuff, bring in new stuff. It's like renovating your body, right? So all the cells in your body undergo this process of regeneration that you're not going to get if you are eating all the time. So this is this whole, in people who are very interested in wellness, a lot of people are looking into this autophagy and so on. And you get this point where you're doing, so you've done these longer fasts. It's like, wow, you just feel really good about yourself. You're full of energy, right? And this is the thing that I thought very strange when I did my first sort of 3 or 4 day fast. It's like, I have a ton of energy. Like I could feel like I could do anything. My friend who used to work, he's a doctor, and he worked a lot of nights and stuff. He said, it felt like my brain was like on fire. Like I thought I could do anything and everything faster than I could, and better than I could ever do it before. Interestingly, another friend of mine who's a cardiologist, so he's a heart specialist, he says, he played piano for his whole life. And he says, there's always this piece that I couldn't play. And then as soon as I started fasting, I noticed that I could start to do it.
Wow.
Like, that's incredible, right? And the doctors, when I talk to the doctors, they actually instantly see the logic of what I'm talking about, because they know the physiology, what happens in the human body. Because what I'm talking about, which is what all the stuff we know about medical physiology, is in contrast to all this stuff that people tell you about fasting, which is, oh, you can't do it, and it's dangerous, and it's really bad for you. Whereas the opposite is true, right? It's actually part of a natural cycle, right? It's feeding and fasting, right? You don't feed all the time, you don't fast all the time. But we've gone so far into that one thing. So yeah, I mean, this whole point of autophagy is very, very interesting and very topical. If you look at studies of longevity, for example, in animals, the only thing that really makes animals in the lab live longer is caloric restriction. And so even almost 100 years ago, people were talking about it and saying, well, you can try and restrict your calories, but if you do that day after day after day, it's really hard. So fasting may be a better way to go, which is something they figured out sort of ages ago, because if you look back, that's how people thought of fasting. That people called it a cleanse, a detoxification, reawakening, spiritual, purification, that kind of thing, right? There's this whole sense of rebirth and something super healthy for you, which got turned in the 80s into something really bad for you, right? It's strange how things work, but without any sort of scientific evidence, and as we become, as a nation, more overweight, it becomes even more important. And that's just one of these sort of fascinating things. So, it's not like something I just made up. It's like literally the oldest dietary intervention in the books, right? I'm just here, and you can do something. Like, you don't need your doctor, you don't need your dietitian. You can do something about it right now for no money. Just rediscovering this and trying to tell people, hey, there's a lot of good medical science that tells you this is actually something that is applicable to what we're seeing today in our healthcare. You can add it to any diet, because remember that it does not tell you what to eat when you're eating. It only tells you the period of time that you're not eating. So whether you're a vegetarian or carnivore or paleo or keto or whatever you want to be, even if you want to eat fast food all day, it doesn't tell you can't eat fast food. It tells you that during this period of time, don't eat. So you can add it to any diet, which is incredible, because now we're pulling on a completely different lever. That is, if you think about weight loss and nutrition in general, there's two levers, right? We always think of what you're eating, right? Eat more vegetables. That's great. But what if you don't like vegetables, right? Well, that lever doesn't work, right? So here's a completely different lever. You're talking about, well, there's this other thing I can do to lose weight or get healthier, right? So you can add it to any diet. It's completely flexible. That is to say, you can do it whenever you want or if you don't want. So if it's Christmas and you do not want to fast for these few days, then you don't have to. If you decide to fast longer after Christmas, then sure, you can do that. That's completely up to you. It's not like you're locked in. The fourth thing is that it's very simple. So if you look at a lot of diets, that is to say you're on a paleo diet, it's a great diet, right? But it's like, this is paleo and this is paleo and this is not paleo, right? It's complex, or keto, or whatever you want to be. So it's very difficult for some people to understand. And I've tried to explain sort of these differences, because they'll always get confused and you always get is this keto or is this paleo or whatever. Whereas fasting is very simple. It's like, you can drink water and tea and herbal tea, say. That's it. Everything else you can't eat, right? So it's very simple to explain to somebody. It makes it very easy for them to follow, because it's very black and white. If you ate a peanut, that's not fasting, right? Yes, it's not a big deal, but at the same time, that's not fasting. And then the other thing is that it's powerful, right? Because if you follow any type of a diet, there's always a natural limit. So say you want to lose weight, and so you say, I'm going to do a keto diet or a paleo diet or a vegetarian diet. So you do a vegetarian diet and you lose a few pounds, but not as much as you want. Well, you can't go more vegetarian than vegetarian. So what else are you going to do? There's nowhere else or you can't go more keto, or you can't go more paleo. Whereas there's no actual upper limit to what you can do in terms of fasting. And it's powerful because you're eating zero, which means that it is by definition for weight loss the most powerful diet there is. Like, absolutely, you cannot lose more. It's like, okay, well, why would you not want it, right? If you have a lot of work to do, you want the best tool. That's it, right? This is the best tool. And somehow we said, don't ever use this, right? It's like, why? If you use it, you'll actually get all these other benefits. So it's just free, it's available, it's simple, you can do it with any diet, and it's powerful. And you actually don't have to stop. You can actually keep going. You can, do a 7-day fast and take a little break, do another 7-day fast. And you can't go lower than zero. There's no way it is possible physiologically to go less than zero. So it is the most powerful diet. So there's so many benefits, and yet for years, I'll tell you, when I started using it with patients in about 7 years ago, maybe, it was like the stuff we saw was just incredible. People were like coming off their medications, they were reversing their type 2 diabetes, they're losing weight. And it's like, all from this simple intervention that is literally the oldest one in the book.